In our Durham County, I'm sorry for to say that hunger and starvation is increasing every day. For want of food and coals, we know not what to do. But with your kind assistance, we will stand the struggle through. I need not state the reason why we have been brought so low. The maesters have behaved unkind, as everyone will know. Because we won't lie down and let them treat us as they like. To punish us, they close the pits and cause the present strife. Went so swift around. The horses and the ponies too are brought from underground. Our work is taken from us now. They cannot let me die. For they can eat the best of food and drink the best when you lie. Miner and his maritime each morning have to roam to seek for bread. Hungry little ones at home. The flour barrel is empty now, our true and faithful friend, which makes the thousands wish today the strike it had no end. So that song is 120 years old, and it was written by Tommy Armstrong, the Pitman poet of County Durham, which is my hometown. And when I was learning it, I thought, God, this is relevant today. This still rings true today. So I've updated the next section of the song, and I'd like to introduce Ness. When minds once stood into their graves, they sing the colliery reel. The wound that scarred is through now, no manifesto can heal. But now they close our libraries, they sentence and charities, and 1 in 3 ends goes to school without a morning meal. The young are stranded, stagnant in this dead economy. Live hand to mouth with dwindling dreams of university. For welfare we are made to beg, bow beneath the tide of rampant privatization, smothering every side. The warmth they crave, as we dismantle stone by stone foundations for fathers paved. They strip away our services, leave us to starve and bank on the charity and the handouts of those far above our rank. Well, if you want to walk the talk of the folk and populace, then first let us please clarify this quagmire of class. For we are not all born equal, so much more so it seems. For privilege prevails and determines how we dream. 120 years have passed since this song was first sung. But if we stand together, hand in hand, sisters in arms, campaign for truth and justice whilst we maintain peace and calm. For we are strong in unison, with free hearts, minds and minds. Let's stand up, speak out, be the change, for now is the time. Let's stand up, speak out, be the change, for now is the time.
What a great feeling it is tonight to be in this theatre and with like-thinking people looking for an opportunity to change society, this rotten, sick society that we're living in now. I'd personally like to thank Jeremy for putting his hat in the ring and getting this debate away, because it's been sadly lacking in the Labour Party as we know it. We've had a situation. We've had people running the Labour Party for many, many years who don't think you've got a voice and don't want to hear your voice. Some of them people are candidates in this particular race, and look who they're reeling out to decry a man who's one of the most principled MPs I've ever known in my life. And I'll say something here now. If everybody in Britain had given the support to the miners in 1984-5 like Jeremy Corbyn did, we'd have changed society then. You're going to get many opportunities in life to be on the verge of a revolution. But we're on the verge of a revolution in the British Labour Party today, and it's quite ironic. It's a century this year to when Keir Hardie, one of the great socialists, died. And I think it's fitting in this year and at this particular time that we, by working, organising and having a voice in our lives and the lives of British people, can change society 100 years since Keir Hardie died. They went through a lot worse than what we did. The fight for socialism, the fight for the vote, the fight for policies to get working men and women a better life and better conditions were much harder then. We've obviously got a press which is attacking relentlessly, and always will, but there's nothing new in there. But doesn't it make you sick when you see people like Mandelson, people like Miliband, people like Blair, people like standing there, a man who destroyed the Labour Party. I remember the debate on Class 4. I was supposed to debate with Blair in Trimden Labour Club about Class 4, and he didn't even have the guts to turn up and defeat Class 4. That man took away any democracy, any shades of democracy that there was in the British Labour Party. And since that particular time, we've been told from the top downwards, keeping our places, doing what we tell you, we know better. It's not that they're not know better, it's better because of them, because we're making their lives better. We've just heard a contribution about the wages and the salaries that these business people are earning. But they're all forgetting one thing. These business people are making that money on the back of working people who are on zero or contract, who provide the work in this country. It's time to change. Who would have believed in the 21st century, in the coalfields of Durham, we've got soup kitchens back. Soup kitchens which are now called food banks, where there's nearly 300 food banks in Durham alone. That's an indictment on society in the 21st century. But worse than that, we've also got 2 clothing banks, where people have got lost their dignity to go along and queue and examine clothes for to clothe themselves in the 6th richest nation on the earth. What type of society have we got? the people who brought that about are telling us if we elect Corbyn, we're unelectable. I'll tell you what, if Corbyn gets in, I wouldn't mind being unelectable as long as we put an opposition up to the people who are destroying our town. They seem to forget for the last 2 elections they haven't had a cat and mouse chance. They've been wiped off the planet and they think they're going to change. There's no danger in them people changing. They're capitalists through and through. We've got a system in Parliament where most of the people who are in, exceptions ain't and I, Graham Morris and Ronnie Campbell, most people in there for what they can get out of politics, not what they can put in. I was brought up in a society. I was brought up in a society where union representatives represented the men, represented the people in them communities and were proud to do so. Money wasn't a part of it. It was about principle, it was about equality, it was about values, it was about the strong out in the weak. And that's what we've forgotten about. And that's what's being turned against us. And the press is absolutely disgraceful. It's worse now than it was in the miners' strike against one man. Every paper I pick up is attacking one man. My father always said to me, if the press attack you, you're doing your job. And if we've got a choice over the next few weeks, and it's a vital choice. Once before in my life, I was involved in another decision that unfortunately went the wrong way. We won all the arguments. We've seen what happened to us at O'Green. You've seen the way we were treated. Somebody called us the enemy within. The enemy within. You get any mining village or any mining village in the country, there's memorials to men who fought fascism and memorials to men who fought in the First World War and did for profit. Come back to the country and didn't have work. It's time we learned the lessons of the past and fought for what we believe in and got behind everything that Corbyn and the left stand for. Let's get this party back to its ideals and its principles. Let's vote for this man and let's have a better life for everybody in Britain, whether they come from a low background or high background. Let's see if we can change this stinking, rotten society and the people who are going to.
And the other one is, well, the PLP. The hierarchy of the Labour Party has sent an urgent letter to Rome, to the Pope. They wanted to intervene to stop the Jeremy Corbyn bandwagon. I reckon it's the last Pope. But honestly, comrades, I would never expected when I nominated Jeremy Corbyn, I was the first one to do it. And when Jeremy got the nominations, when he got the 30-odd nominations, I sent him an email and said, Jeremy, good luck, just say what you've been saying for 50 years. I didn't know what I was saying, did I? Because by God has he come out and shown this country what it means and what socialism means. He's the only one in my lifetime, apart from maybe Tony Benn and a few others, that's actually spouted socialist principles and what we can do with the economy if we had a socialist government. And I wish him all the best, because it's going to be a rough reign. He's going to get elected, that's for sure. The bookies that say they were wrong. And he's going to be in trouble, mate, because we're going to have to protect him in Parliament, because I think they may try and assassinate him. That may happen, be careful. But we'll look after him. But he's in for a rough ride. Remember that. They're not finished yet. And when Tony Blair tells us that we need a heart transplant, I twixed him back and said I didn't need a heart transplant, I just needed my heart when I voted against your war in Iraq. telly and News Night and BBC News, when I hear them saying, Jeremy Corbyn will never get elected with them policies. What's wrong with the policies of taking back the energy companies? They've been ripping the British people off for years. What's wrong with them taking our water back? They're pioneering in the water companies, and they're not even British. What's wrong about taking the East Coast back and the rest of the rail lines into the forest? And that should be a priority number one when Jeremy gets into that number 10. It will be there back at him. Jeremy for Prime Minister!
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. Is there anyone from County Durham? Anybody from Colliery? Anybody from Seal Harbour? Can I have a lift home? Mr. I know you're not here to listen to me, but it's just been so fantastic outside to hear Jeremy Corbyn energising that crowd in the pouring rain. Who else could do that? Who else could bring this I'm proud alongside Ronnie Campbell and Chi Onwurah to have nominated Jeremy Corbyn. And those people who said, well, he can't possibly win. He can't get on the ballot paper. Well, he did. Couldn't get the nominations. Well, he did. Those people who have said, well, he can't possibly win the elections, a complete outsider. And he is running away with it. He's electrified the campaign. He can do it. And those people who say there is no appetite in the country for the policies that are being pursued by Jeremy Corbyn are absolutely wrong. If they go out and see the response that Jeremy's having from thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people who've been disengaged from politics, some who in the past have been Labour Party members, some members of other parties, some members of none, I think it's incredibly encouraging. We have to take that enthusiasm. We have to restore what Labour should be, a movement for change, and I'm confident that we can win.
Thank you so much. If there wasn't a bright light in my eyes, I'd be able to describe how beautiful this theatre is. I know that to be the case, and I know it to be in memory of Garibaldi and many other great people. So thank you all for coming here tonight, because this is an amazing event. And I want to say a big thank you to many of my friends that are here tonight. To Graham Morris and Ronnie Campbell, great friends of mine in Parliament, fantastic comrades, real support. Davy Hopper for all his work for the Durham Miners Gala, the miners, everybody. I'm very proud to call Davy a very good friend of mine. To my union, Unison, for support and nomination tonight, and to Dave Prentice for coming along and delivering that massive support from my union. And I want to say a big thank you to all the councillors from across the region that have come, because we've achieved something quite remarkable tonight. There's councillors here from Newcastle, Gateshead, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Durham and Northumbria. Who says our campaign can't unite the Labour Party, eh? And I want to say say a special thank you, and this will deeply embarrassing me. We're very annoyed later, and he'll tell me off, no doubt, but I'll cope. Can we say a big thank you to the person and all the volunteers in this campaign who've done so much of the work, David Stockdale and all the team of volunteers. He's already denounced me and refuses to speak to me ever again. And I thank everyone that's come along tonight from long distances and short, and I'm sorry that we couldn't find an even bigger theatre to have this event in, because we've got, I understand, 1,280 people in here, and we had at least 500 in the street outside when we did an overflow meeting. There are many in this audience I want to say a special thank you to, but there's one person I want to recognise because he's done such fantastic work for so long for awakening our imagination, awakening our conscience, and explaining to people that through film and art you can change minds, you can highlight crises, and you can explain and understand deep and important historical processes. So could you say a warm welcome to Ken Loach, my old friend. Campaign has done is quite incredible, is brought together very large numbers of people. This is a summer like no other, because normally all of us here are together in protest about something. We've all been on protest, we're always stopping something, against something, defending something, you know it goes. But this is something different. We're actually together asking for something, demanding something, and doing something together, a concept of doing things together in unity, doing things together that will get a message across. So in addition to the 1,280 in here, the 500 outside, there's at least 500 people watching it on live stream at the present time. So say hello to all of them as well. So that makes it one of our biggest events. One of our biggest events that we've had, and we've got lots more to go. This, I think, is the 75th event we've had, including the hustings events, and we've got many more to go all over the UK. And what's bringing us together is, of course, the hope and optimism, but there's a number of principles surrounding our campaign. The first one is that we are about politics, we're political, we're putting out ideas, we put out papers on environment, on women, on economy, on railways, on housing, on education, and there's many more to come. Every single one of those papers is a document for consultation. We want and welcome ideas. When we put out some ideas about development of infrastructure and economy in the north and northeast, we got 1,200 replies in a few days of people making good constructive suggestions. This is a campaign about ideas, about unlocking the talent, the imagination, the enthusiasm that's there amongst ordinary people. No more top-down policy making from discrete tables in weekend hotels. Let the policies of our movement be our policies. And the other difference, which is to me a very important one, I understand there's some people out there saying bad things about other people. It's truly shocking. I understand there's people being incredibly rude about other people out there. That's even more shocking. And there's people saying all kinds of bad things about lots of us. Well, I tell you what, I don't care. People could say anything they like. We are not doing that kind of politics. We're not into that kind of Yahoo sucks politics, you're a worse person than me. We're into serious debate and serious enlightenment of people and enfranchisement of ordinary people to take part in a genuine, open political process. That's how we got this campaign going, and that's how it's going to be. A big wake-up call. It's a big wake-up call because we had a banking crisis in 2008. That banking crisis wasn't caused by greedy nurses fiddling overtime sheets. It wasn't caused by park workers not putting enough fertiliser down to get the flowers to grow. It wasn't caused by refuse collectors missing the odd bin bag. It wasn't caused by doctors overprescribing any particular medicine. It was actually caused by unregulated banks, unregulated bankers, overpaid bank executives, and certainly massive bonuses paid to them. It was caused by investments in the subprime mortgage crisis in the USA, and it should have been a warning and a wake-up call to all of us. It was caused by a worshipping of the concept of money over people, and it was caused by that whole mentality and mindset. So when the banking crisis came about, yes, of course it was right to bring the banks into public ownership. It was also right to put what's euphemistically called quantitative easing into the banks as a kind of low-price loan. I mean, I must have thought, when I first heard the word quantitative easing, I thought it was an upmarket form of laxative, actually. And then discovered it was something else. But we did the right thing to bring the banks into public ownership, and the problem was we didn't really bring them into public ownership. We merely bought the shares to keep them going and allowed them to carry on in the same way. So George Osborne is now selling off our shares in our bank at a loss to his mates in the City of London. That is that is just completely wrong. That should simply not be happening. But then came the problem, because after the banking crisis came the issue of the borrowing that had taken place to pay for it, and what you did about that. Well, you borrow, yes, you then decide to pay it off in record quick time, and who pays the price of that? Every cut in every benefit, every person who can't get the help they need, every adult social care crisis that exists, every hospital waiting list that's got longer, every school place that isn't there, all those kind of issues all come from a narrative that somehow or other the entirety of the public services have to pay for the banking crisis of 2008. That is the whole austerity agenda. But I think the austerity agenda, watch it played out in country after country, is actually much more of a political agenda about shrinking the state, shrinking public services, and saying that we can't have those things that we believe to be right and necessary. And you can't therefore cut your way to prosperity, you have to grow your way to prosperity. So instead of cutting and selling off state assets, which is what this budget and this government is doing, we have to offer something different. Our problem, and this is a harsh truth that we have to face, our problem was that in 2010 we were offering cuts on a level that Thatcher would have been proud of, probably, had she been able to make those kind of cuts. And in 2015, we were still offering austerity light when we should have been offering an alternative to austerity called an economy that works for everybody, not for the few. And so, when people say that Labour can only get back by being economically responsible, I ask the question in this way. Is it responsible to allow the gap between the richest and the poorest to grow and grow to the obscene level that the 5 richest people in Britain own the equivalent of the total wealth of a fifth of the rest of the population? The levels of inequality in this country are the worst in Europe and designed to get worse by this whole process. Surely we can, must and should do something very, very differently. And so, are to challenge austerity, challenge the agenda of austerity, and invest in people and invest in a growing economy. You do that by controlling rents, so we're not subsidising high rents through the welfare system. You do that by raising wages, raising the minimum wage to the TUC figure of £10 an hour as a good start, and you invest in the needs of people, which in turn, of course, creates jobs, and it becomes a virtuous circle. And so, one of our suggestions is, as Graham was explaining, a national investment bank. That national investment bank would invest in infrastructure, would invest in housing, would invest in high technology jobs, would invest in the future benefit, future prosperity of the entire community and population. If I was making this proposal, or we were putting this idea forward in Germany, nobody would be in the least bit surprised and say, well, that seems a perfectly reasonable and sensible thing to do. It's only because the economic and political thinking in Britain has moved so far to the right that it's seen as particularly outrageous and particularly wildly radical thing to do. So that's one of the suggestions. But there's some other points that our party has got to understand. We, all of us here, love the National Health Service. We love it because of the principle behind it. The principle behind it is a very, very powerful one. And last week we were in South Wales. We went to where Nye Bevan had been the MP, to Tredegar. We went to the Nye Bevan House and we had a health service rally at the memorial stones to him above the town. And in Nye Bevan House there is a very interesting statement from him. He said, if somebody is ill and needs help and cannot afford to go to a doctor and is therefore denied help, how can that society call itself civilised? Exactly. Very sensible point that Nye made. And so the National Health Service is there as a human right, free point of use, as a purpose. But it's under threat. It's under threat by an internal market. It's under threat by the competition between the profit greed of a number of private sector companies that want to take over parts of the National Health Service. And it's under threat because it's chronically underfunded in some areas. And that in turn means that it could become a health service of last resort, not a first port of call. I'm sure that is what the Tories want. So our proposals are quite simply these. End the internal market within the National Health Service, bring back planning on the basis of health need, and a health service that recognises the ghastly health inequalities that exist all across this country. You can take a bus ride across any major city in Britain, in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and you can measure by the distance you travel from the leafy suburbs to the poorer circular inner city areas, the life expectancy of people. It can drop between 10 and 15 years during one of those bus journeys. That is health inequality brought about by poverty, by bad housing, by unemployment, by insufficient wages for children to be fed properly. That is an issue the NHS has to deal with, but you'll also have to deal with it by economic and social policy means to ensure those grotesque levels of inequality do not persist in our society. Whilst we do have this attraction and attachment to the National Health Service, I think we need to have another thought as well, and that is about the ideas of a welfare society that we live in. When Beveridge wrote the Beveridge Report in 1942, during the Second World War, he envisaged a system that would prevent anyone falling into destitution. Somewhere along the line, we seem to have forgotten about that. Somewhere along the line, we've joined in the language of scrounger, the language of abuse of people on benefits. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, it's anaesthetised us to the suffering of others. So as a society, we walk by on the other side while people are sleeping on the streets, while desperate people shuffle around the streets in midwinter trying to find a night shelter, while children grow up in grossly overcrowded accommodation, underachieving in school because they can't do their homework and all the other things. And so, cannot we instead measure our society and our success not by the grotesque levels of wealth of the very richest and the number of dying? We have nobody sleeping on the streets. Yeah. We don't have people that are homeless. We don't have people living in destitution and poverty. Cannot we, as a party, discover or rediscover those morals, those principles that brought us into being in the first place? There's so much that we have to do. There's so much that we have to campaign on. This welfare reform bill that's now being pushed through Parliament is an abuse of language. It's not about reform. The budget that's been pushed through is an abuse of the word, because jointly those two pieces of legislation deny benefits to the third child onwards in a larger family, continue the subsidy of low wages and high rents, and by a process of benefit cap actually lead to the depopulation of working class communities from many inner city parts of Britain to make way for gentrification and property speculation. I think we can, should and must do something very, very differently. But behind it, there is an even nastier agenda. I don't know how much attention many of you pay to the deep thoughts of our Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, but I believe he does have these deep thoughts from time to time, and one of his deep thoughts is that he thinks it would be a good idea if we all had individual insurance. Interesting idea, that. Why on earth does he think that the pioneers in the 19th century dreamt of the idea of a national insurance system to which everyone would pay in so that everybody could get some degree of security when times got hard? He wants to get rid of all that and bring back individual insurance. Well, I'm sure for Cameron and his family it probably wouldn't be a great hardship. I'm sure they'd manage very nicely. They'd be all right. But by abolishing that, by that kind of philosophy, we recreate the ghastliest inequalities that ever existed in the past. We set ourselves on an agenda which can only lead to the utmost misery and degradation of many people within our society. So we should not equivocate on this and absolutely oppose this welfare reform bill, root and branch, at every stage. With demonstrations around the country explaining what it's about and why we're so against it. And at the same time, recognise for what it is the proposals on the trade union reform bill, which are about denying workers the right to choose what they do, denying unions the right to collect their funds by a check-off system, and it is the start of yet another Tory-inspired slippery slope to deny workers their rights to free representation of independent trade unions. We've been here before. My regret is that for all the horrors that the Tories did under Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s, and I remember the meetings and rallies here in Newcastle in support of the miners, in support of those people that were losing their jobs, and in opposition to her trade union legislation. My regret is that when we had the chance from 97 to 2010, we didn't repeal the whole lot of that Tory legislation. And the last point I want to make is simply this, and it's about how we approach the world and how we approach the problems of the world. Yes, there is an environmental crisis around the world, and it doesn't fall evenly. It's the poorest working class communities and peasant communities around the world that feel the brunt of pollution, that die of asphyxiation in unregulated industries in big cities. It's workers in China, in Tianjin, who died because of unregulated industries that led to a chemical explosion. It is that is happening all around the world, as the idea of the free market economy takes hold, as opposed to the idea of an economy that works for all. How we walk by whilst there's so much environmental degradation going on. So I would like to see us signing up for legally enforceable global targets on emissions, recognising that if we pour rubbish in the sea, it gets somewhere else. If we pollute the air, it gets somewhere else. Pollution knows no national boundaries. And so we approach the world on the basis of, yes, making it sustainable, yes, investing in sustainable industries, yes, investing in green energy jobs. 1 million jobs could be created from that process in the UK. Let's have some imagination and some spirit in what we do. But there are also issues in the world, and that is of the refugee crisis. There are now more people displaced around this world than there have ever been at any time in recorded history. They're victims of environmental degradation, they're victims of wars, they're victims of oppression, they're victims of land grabbing and many other things. And they're victims of the wars that we got involved with. The appalling war we got involved with in Iraq and the subsequent wars of what's gone on in Libya and Mali, and of course the current abominable conflict that's going on in Syria. It's not easy to solve all these problems, and we have to try. But I do not believe we solve these problems by yet more bombing, yet more armaments, and yet more wars alongside the United States. We solve these problems by a different, more human approach. But we also have to recognise that the victims of war are those who get killed, soldiers of all sides, civilians who lose their homes, children who lose their schools, whole communities that are laid waste, and the bitterness that's left behind lasts for decades and decades and decades. So you have to work hard for peace. You have to take chances for peace. You have to work together with people you might not particularly like or agree with in order to bring about peace and save lives. But you also have to have a sense of humanity in the language you use. Those people that are dying in the Mediterranean, those people that are desperate to try and get somewhere safe, those people that are in Calais in a refugee camp do not deserve to be called swarms of insects by political leaders. What we do is the language of decency and humanity. And so we're here tonight because we come together on a sense of principles, the principles of the kind of world and kind of society we want to live in. A kind of society that cares for all and works for all and all care for each other. It's not a complicated philosophy, it's actually basic humanity. That's what brings us together. The alternative of the ultra-competitive society and economy where you don't care about anybody else. The alternative for us of staying at home at night and throwing things at the television rather than going out and doing something about it is not very attractive. It might break your television, it might cost you a lot of money, but it certainly as hell won't change anything. So our campaign is at one level about an election, but it's also about 600,000 people coming together to take part in that, to provide that mandate for a fundamental change in the approach to politics in our society. So no more the top-down policy making, no more the exclusiveness of what goes on in Parliament. Understand there's a lot of people out there who want to do things differently. And if people say that's deeply unattractive to some others in society, I beg to differ. I think not. I think there's something deeply attractive to most people in society of the idea of the cohesive, the coherent, the collective. The idea you don't blame minorities. The idea you don't make people with disabilities suffer. You don't walk away from those with mental health conditions. You don't walk away from people in problems. There's something strong about a cohesive society. This summer has been absolutely fascinating in seeing the way this whole debate has panned out. The way in which the media have sought abuse, have sought denigration, have sought total negativism. None of us have replied to any of that. We've stuck resolutely to the optimism of ordinary people, the goodness of ordinary people, the determination of ordinary people to achieve something good in our society. This summer has been a big change in the politics of Britain. And whatever the result on September the 12th, and I'm making no prediction, whatever the result on September the 12th, we have changed the way in which people do politics, the way in which young and old people can come together in common endeavour. We've made people strong, we've made our society better, we've made our politics better. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.